We recycled more carpet than anyone in the world, nearly 1 billion pounds.
The building industry produces just this sheer volume of waste that far exceeds what any individual household might produce.
All we have to do is ask the question. I don't know if we're waiting for permission to ask customers, is it okay if we reduce your landfill consumption? Is it okay if we reduce your carbon impact? It's not going to cost you anymore.
Hi, and welcome to Building Conversations. I'm your host, Jennifer Taranto, Vice President of Sustainability at STO Building Group. Today, we're exploring how Takeback programs and supplier partnerships are driving circularity in construction. Joining me are Avery McKitrick, Sustainability Coordinator at StructureTone Southwest, and Tim Conway, Vice President of Sustainability at Shaw Industries. Together, we'll dig into the lessons learned from pilot projects, the real challenges and barriers teams are facing, and the opportunities ahead as we work to scale these programs across the industry. So let's dive in. Well, thank you both for joining us. Tim, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to just jump right into the questions. Can you tell us, I think maybe talk to us about what Takeback programs are, and then maybe why they're important to manufacturers and how do they work in the context of commercial construction?
Yeah, so I think about from the point of a manufacturer, and I think about three things. A Takeback program, circular economy work, has to be profitable, it has to be practical, and it has to have a purpose, right? So profitable, over 20 years ago, we designed a product for disassembly. We designed the end in mind when we designed the product. And when we get it back, we saw that it was a profitable raw material versus purchasing virgin raw material. Then it had to be practical. Once we came up with the product, the easy part was behind us. We had to create a process that was easy for the supply chain in the reverse distribution of that material. And it had to have purpose. There has to be some reward at the end, not only for Shaw, but for the general contractors and the owners as well. So we started on this process trying to find a way to make it profitable, create a process, and then create this reward at the end that is really working now with our partners like StructureTone.
Yeah, and I would say, we have been trying to make use of Takeback programs for the better part of a decade or more, and they're really gaining traction in the last couple of years in a way that is remarkable and lovely to see. So, how are they gaining traction, and what role do manufacturers like Shaw play in making that a success?
Yeah, I talked about profitable, practical, and purpose. I forgot about the other P. It's about partnerships, right? So let's talk about this partnership around construction and design. This industry that we're so proud to be a part of is responsible for about 160 million tons of landfill consumption a year, right? We take, we make, we waste. Then we've celebrated the fact that we get to do that over and over again on every project, right? That's out of whack. It doesn't make environmental sense, certainly doesn't make economic sense. So at Shaw, we're proud. We've recycled more carpet than anyone in the world, nearly 1 billion pounds. We're nowhere where we need to be, but I said partnership, right? We have a good idea as carpet manufacturers, commercial carpet manufacturers, working with the architects, working with the designers, working with the owners. But I realized we don't know anybody that's actually executing the demo of these buildings, which led me to these partnerships with StructureTone. So the reason, to answer your question, how is this becoming more successful and gaining more traction? Because we've built those relationships with the right people in the project supply chain, right? StructureTone's been a big part of our success as this is gaining traction. So we're gaining this traction because of the partnerships.
Yeah, for sure. Avery, what do you think the success is? Like, how are these gaining traction?
Yeah, I think that, exactly what Tim said is the building industry produces just this sheer volume of waste that far exceeds what any individual household might produce. So when you think about building waste, you're thinking about in terms of tons. What do we do with all of this? And in a non-circular economy, as they call it, all that waste would go to the landfill. And so increasingly, municipalities have diversion goals, public universities, local governments, and then these clients have diversion goals. And so they've created these goals that we have to figure out ways to meet while the infrastructure catches up. And Takeback programs are one of the ways that we can kind of close that gap between the goal and between where we're at right now. So Takeback programs are In my opinion, it's even a little bit better than like a commingled recycling stream that you might take to a materials recovery facility, because the manufacturer takes back that product that they've produced, or maybe even products from other manufacturers, similar products, and it really contributes to ensuring that none of those raw materials are going to waste, i.e. the circular economy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds really simple, but we know in practice that it historically hasn't been. I would love to live in a world where, everything I buy, I can just give back to the manufacturer at the end of the day. And I think that, through extended producer responsibility regulations, that we're going to start to see more of that over time. But Avery, you want to tell us about some of the challenges that we've had along the way, maybe some of the bumps in the road, and what's a real barrier versus a perceived barrier?
Well, I think the top two challenges are, one, volume. For some of these manufacturer take-back programs, the volume exceeds what the project will produce. And so those projects just can't utilize certain take-back programs. That's changing, but it hasn't always been that way. And then another problem is cost. And so sometimes there's an associated freight cost. There's a labor cost to palletize these materials. You have to sort them and separate them and deconstruct them rather than gutting. And so we can save money, though, for example, by reducing our costs towards tipping fees for landfills. So while some take-back programs aren't necessarily going to be 100% free, we can offset those costs. So I don't think the cost is as high as some people perceive it to be. Tim, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
It's really refreshing to hear your explanation, Avery, and we've got some traction and have some projects under our belt. So I've been trying to crack this code for 15 years, right? In circular economy, getting our material back to Shaw and carpet tile. And I'm proud to say I've gone from okay to pretty good. The last time I checked, Jennifer, the budget's undefeated. And we have these aspirational goals that, hey, we'll pick up the material for free, but then it gets to go out to bid and we get these prices back that are just outrageous, right? And I think people are scared, right, to maybe lose money on this. So I get this feeling, it's like, hey, we'd love to do this, but it's going to cost too much. My first question back to that, it costs too much compared to what, right? It costs too much compared to that place called away. So I asked the questions to GCs. How much was your dumpster rental? $700, $800. How much were your tipping fees? What was the transportation cost? What was the labor to get it from the 14th floor of the building out to the parking lot to throw that away? So I think where we're gaining traction on this is, I think that we're getting the word hard confused with the word different. And if we can do things a little bit differently and compare this comparison of these take-back programs to what the traditional cost to take it to the place called away is, we're finding in some markets there's a cost savings, but in most markets throughout the United States, it's a low cost, no cost comparison. So it's getting better. Yeah. But cost and perception has been the barrier.
Yeah, I would totally agree with it. That matches my personal experience when trying to implement these programs. I think the other thing that's not lost, though, Tim, is that the take-back programs themselves have changed, right? So Avery talked about like the reduction in quantities. There was a time when like we were asked to provide entire tractor trailer loads of the material back, which just is unfeasible in some cases. And can you tell us other changes that have been made in the take-back programs over the years?
Yeah, all of the bumps and bruises I've got along the way.
Right, exactly.
So we've been at this since 1999. The first PVC-free, fully recyclable carpet tile in the industry. At the end of its time in service, we pick it up at no charge. So proud of it. In 1999, on the bottom of every carpet tile we've ever manufactured, it says to recycle, call 1-800-509-SHAW. Then when people stopped using the phone, we added shawrecycles.com. That phone didn't ring, right? So we had to work backwards. We had to go out and ask restaurants, what do you need from us? And I said, well, the minimums are too high. Our minimums were 500 yards. We've lowered our minimums down to 100 yards. There's no project too small. The secret to the biggest change we made is we've leveraged our distribution network. At any given time, Shaw is one of the largest independently held fleet of trucks in the United States. We own 34 distribution centers throughout the United States, and we're trying to use that same model of getting your carpet delivered on time every time, using those same trucks and those distribution networks to get the material back. So we're fast, we're flexible. We've also hired dedicated recycling specialists in markets. So we have employees that are in markets doing not every single day, calling on building owners, calling on GCs, educating them, saying, we want this back. So is it perfect where we're at yet? No, but we are not going to stop trying, and we're going to continue to learn and work backwards from the project's pace and space to make this easier. We lowered our minimums down to 100 yards. That's only 500 pounds of carpet. We lowered the minimums because we're finding that once GCs do this with us once, they come back. We're going to gain more pounds because we're gaining more participation. As I said at the beginning, making things practical.
Yeah, we have also seen that when we have worked with some of our demo subs, that after they've done it once or twice, that they also see the efficiencies in it and they see the cost savings in it. It makes them more competitive come bid time. And I really see this as a low-hanging fruit in order to be able to become business as usual. We've been kind of talking like theoretically pie in the sky. I want to kind of move to reality and say, Avery, give us an example of where we've utilized the Takeback program and what was responsible for its success.
So a recent Takeback program that we've been working on is with a corporate campus we're working on in Arkansas. And we're really excited to work with Shaw for that Takeback program, and double excited because it's not just, it's a ground up project. So there's no demo scope. And we worked with Shaw. At the time, it was one of the first times that Shaw had done this, to take the scraps of that carpet tile. So as they were installing and cutting the scraps, they collect in these big, I can describe it as like a giant bag of a Swedish retailer, you may know. And they're collected, they're palletized, and they're shipped off for recycling. And I rely a lot on my Structure Tone, Southwest, and Layton colleagues who spend full time down in Arkansas to ensure that that program is running smoothly. And so I'm so grateful for their help and cooperation. But not only that, but our trade partner, our flooring subcontractor, we brought this idea to them, not really knowing what kind of response we would get. Would they be open to it? Would they have hesitations? And they were like, yeah, sounds easy. Sounds like we can totally do that. And so we really just were rocking and rolling. And, Tim was an excellent partner in that, and solving these barriers and answering questions about take-back programs. So it really was the effort of everybody that made this happen. Like, I couldn't have done this on my own, even as the sustainability coordinator, but we were so grateful to have sustainability-minded colleagues, subcontractors, Tim with Shaw, working on that project as well. And we're excited that's ongoing. So we'll have reports back very soon for our total tonnage.
Yeah,
Tim,
Avery,
tell me your perspective.
Yeah, Avery, that's that fourth P, the partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
So you came up with this idea, right? We're going for a LEED V5. We need some construction waste management partners on this. Like, I think we can do this. We've done it a couple times before, but all we have to do is ask the question. Like, I don't know if we're waiting for permission to ask customers, is it okay if we reduce your landfill consumption? Is it okay if we reduce your carbon impact? It's not going to cost you anymore. But once you ask the question, everybody's like, yeah, we can do that. But we had to get everybody in the same room talking the same thing. So that project you're talking about, we're halfway done. I checked yesterday. We've collected about 16,000 pounds of waste. Right? What a great story, purpose, back to that client. But I think about, in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, we continue to have success in corporate and higher education and healthcare. In fact, I think last year we recycled more carpet tile than any city in the United States in Omaha, Nebraska. Last time I checked, that's not a hotbed of LEED certified project or sustainability, Jen. But we have the right people and the right partners in those places.
Yeah, I think that's refreshing to hear. I mean, we often hear about the East Coast and the West Coast and how sustainably minded they are, and how tough it is to achieve sustainability goals in other parts of the United States. So absolutely refreshing. Hats off to Omaha. They're definitely doing something right there. So we've been talking a lot about carpet up to this point, but Avery, there've got to be other products or materials that are really suited for take-back programs or recycling through manufacturer partnerships. You want to talk about some of the other things we look for?
Yeah, other than carpet tile, which we've been discussing, ceiling tile is another big one. Furniture is one that has a lot of take-back programs. Porcelain's highly recyclable. Other flooring products I've seen a lot for like rubber flooring products. Those are the big categories that I'm aware of. From a sustainability perspective, it's essential to utilize take-back programs, especially for like these high embodied carbon items, meaning that they take a lot of carbon to produce. So it's especially important that we utilize those take-back programs, in my opinion, for things like ceiling tile, for carpet tile, things that will have a big carbon impact if they're recycled.
Yeah. So Tim, I'm curious about this and other product materials. Do product manufacturers across different building material types collaborate on like
Absolutely.
what's new in like take back programs and how to recycle your products?
I'm constantly sharing best practices with other manufacturers. Ceiling tile you've mentioned, and working with other manufacturers of the built environment, and I'm sharing how we're doing it. We're sharing it how they're doing it, and also different product categories that we manufacture. We're now getting into the resilient flooring circular economy. Products that we manufacture. We came out, our carpet tile is called EcoWorks carpet tile. We came out with a new PVC-free EcoWorks resilient carpet tile. And it's the same chemistry as our carpet tile. So the beauty of this product, when we get it back, it can be recycled back into itself. It can be recycled into carpet tile. It's the same story, different product category, but we're looking to find solutions across our platforms.
Yeah, that's amazing. That really is better living through chemistry. In a way, I usually don't use that phrase.
It's designing with the end in mind.
Right.
We have to design materials to be disassembly or recycled, so we have profitability at the end.
Yeah. So that's a great segue to my next question. Thinking about things with the end in mind, how early in the design and procurement process do we need to start thinking about circularity and take-back programs in order to really make them feasible, Avery?
I'm going to go way before that. Like when materials are being spec'd, we should spec materials with take-back programs, because when that project reaches the end of its life and it's demoed, then those products can be taken back. LEED version 4 already gives you building product disclosure and optimization credit for using materials with extended producer responsibility programs, take-back programs. And so I think it really starts there is working with the architect for non-spec materials, looking at what you can do that has a take-back program. I think that's kind of step one. And then step two, at the end of that project's life, as early as possible, as you can determine what can be utilized through a take-back program. How are you going to deconstruct this building to make sure it's palletized, to make sure your demo company, maybe preferably they would have experience in deconstruction. They would be able to kind of ensure that those materials get back to where you're trying to get them. But really as early as possible, if you are, but it's never too late, right? For this corporate campus we're talking about in Arkansas, one of the buildings was almost complete. 6 were in progress. And we kind of just decided in the middle of installing the carpet tile in this building to do it. And we can see that that's been successful. So it's never too late, but the earlier is always better.
Yeah. And I would say, Tim, I know we've worked with you in the past. You guys have helped us write specification language, right? Mm-hmm. In order to make sure that it's incorporated.
Avery, I'm going to reiterate, we can't get this embedded into a project early enough. Earlier, I said we had to get ahead of that place called away. right? The gravity of the status of how we've executed projects in landfill consumption has been too easy. And I think people want to do the right thing, but my aha moment was it seemed like we were all trying to do the right thing at the wrong time. All the right actions, worst time, because we only thought about recycling when it was time to throw it away. So what we ask design professionals, what we ask pre-construction, what we ask building owners, can you, before anything gets bid out, even before materials get selected, can you just take a smartphone photo of the carpet tile, the top and back, and send it to this telephone number? We want to see if there's an opportunity to reduce your project landfill consumption, right? Then we've developed a CSI spec with our friend Ann Hicks Harney from Long Green Specs. And we've got a carpet tile reclamation specification that is intentionally overwritten. We asked them to put it into Division 9 if the flooring contractor does the work, and Division 1 for the demo contractor, because Avery, correct me if I'm wrong, when it becomes part of the bid, it becomes part of the project. And just those two tasks, identify early and specify the practice, our program is seeing great trajectory right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For those of you that are listening, and you've listened to all of the episodes, you would have heard Andrea Love from Payette in our previous episodes say that, we started out by including language to say like where these things are feasible. And often when you have those aspirational type goals, they don't become reality. But when you have the text like Tim is talking about, and you have the telephone number, and you can reach out and make it tangible and easily accessible, it makes a ton of difference in making sure that it happens. And so, Tim, I'm going to ask you, like, how are clients responding to Takeback programs? Are they driving demand? Or are they still kind of listening and learning and thinking about what the benefits might be to them?
What came first, the chicken or the egg? Kind of question.
Exactly.
Right. So I think a lot of clients think that this is already happening, right? It's not, right? So I think hard pressed not to find a higher education system or a healthcare system, maybe a corporate company that doesn't have some kind of recycling goals. Hard pressed to find a lot of them that might not have some type of climate or carbon goals. Maybe they didn't know they could achieve results through a manufacturer and a general contractor. So some of the normal clients we see that are driven by this, or these are baked into their RFPs. But what I love is delivering those unexpected results to a project with someone that maybe wasn't expecting that, right? So at the end of a project, we're able to deliver, Avery, you talked about embodied carbon. We're able to provide data and a cool certificate that says, because of Shaw Industries and Structure Tone, we just diverted your landfill consumption by 23,000 pounds. Those pounds make their recycling goals, right? And then we can also say, in the act of recycling that, reduced that carbon footprint by about 108,000 pounds of CO2, right? Maybe they didn't know they could achieve those goals through a general contractor and a manufacturer. But when we deliver those results, purpose, that's where we get traction. That's where we start to get that demand coming from our corporate, our higher education, and our healthcare customers. I'd say some of them, fortunately, are kind of becoming addicted to it.
It's a good addiction, I'll say. Avery, any perspective on client driving, learning? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think Tim hit it on the head. It's really just about education. A lot of people still don't know that take-back programs are a possibility. They know about recycling. Take-back programs are kind of new. And so I found that I really don't have clients that are just not interested. Maybe they want to know more about the cost implications. They want a little bit more information. But like Tim said, people have goals. And even if you don't have a waste goal, if your client doesn't have a waste goal, it feels good to be able to do that. It's really, it's something that people like to share on their website. It's something that people like to share internally. And I don't think that just because take-back programs are not being brought up in pre-construction meetings and so forth means that people aren't interested. Sometimes you just have to be the person to raise your hand and say, I saw a bunch of Shaw carpet, are we going to do a take-back program for that? And then that's your opportunity to go in and educate the client and tell them all about what a wonderful partnership this could be.
Yeah, That's absolutely 100% correct. I want to turn the lens to look into the future. And Tim, I'm going to let you go first. How do you see Takeback programs evolving in construction? And what do we need to do to make them really scale and become that business as usual that I daydream about, and spread them across more projects in more regions? So what does utopia look like in Shaw Land? And
Well, I wish I had a magic wand to make that all a reality. Right? I don't. I said I've gotten from okay to pretty good at this. I think there's certain EPR regulations that are happening around us. It's either going to happen to us or it's going to happen because of us, right? Avery, you talked about what we do in our households, right? And I try to do the right thing, right? Jen, you try to do the right thing. Think of the opportunity that we have in our professional lives to drive those changes 100x to what we do at home. Right. I think the future is happening because I think we as professionals are translating maybe our personal values into our professional lives. Right. And the more people we get in these partnerships, the more these become a reality. I said, the only way that this is going to grow our pounds is to grow our participation. So I love the trajectory of the programs that we have. I love the programs within the flooring industry, within ceiling tile, the work that's happening in glass, drywall. This is going to take us forever. So I'm glad we've gotten started. But if we don't, our forever isn't going to look very good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Avery, I'll turn the question to you. What does the utopia look like at Structured Tone Land?
I think it's a complete reimagining of the demolition process. I think if we can look at demolition instead of how can we, like I said, gut the whole thing, throw it all away, get it out as fast as possible. I'd love to see more subcontractors who specialize in deconstruction, so that we can partner and do take-back programs and do recycling and do partner with these nonprofits who will take these building materials which are still not at the end of their useful life. I think that reimagining is really going to drive the demand for more of these programs, for more options, for more cost-effective options, for all different projects will be able to participate in take-back programs if we can start on the general contractor side, rethinking about the demolition process of a building. And I think using those lessons that we've learned in the programs that are available now or in the future, regardless of project sustainability goals, LEED, well, things like that, and just kind of integrating it into what we do.
Yeah, I agree with that. The one other layer I would say, in the partnerships, and where I hope we also see things change a little bit in the future is with our trade partners, and finding more opportunities for them to create a business line for like being aggregators of the materials. Because Tim, while I appreciate that you will take 100 yards of carpet, it is not the most efficient thing to do. So if we can have more trade partners regionally aggregating materials so that they can go out in bulk, that would be like my secondary win in order to create this utopia we've just described. Thank you guys very much for this conversation. It's been delightful and illuminating, and I really appreciate you joining me today.
Jen, thanks for everything you guys do. Appreciate the partnership.